Hey guys, today I'd like to talk about anything other than foiling. Namely, I want to talk about getting the boat onto and off the water as expeditiously as possible. Full disclaimer, in my home waters, I am dock launched. Now, I realize that means some of the things I'm going to talk about today don't apply to you. I have beach launched before, about 3 or 4 times when I was traveling, and I'm not good at it. Now, I think I'd get better the more I did it. But my point is that some of the stuff that works for me may not work for you, and feel free to modify or try things as you need to make the boat work for you. I've got a clip here, basically time-lapse footage that shows me from unwrapping the boat to getting on the water and then getting back off the water again. I'm using that mostly as just a memory aid for me to talk about the things that I want to share with you guys. All right, first off, I am unwrapping the boat with covers. I've had them for about 1.5 years. I highly recommend them. They're holding up great. They're keeping the boat looking good. As far as what I wear, got some old cycling shorts that I wear underneath my street clothes that kind of allows me to just do a quick change in the parking lot into a wetsuit or a dry suit in the colder weather. Or if it's warm weather, like it is on this particular day, I can put another pair of padded sailing shorts on top of that. And yeah, that's a lot of padding, and all I can say is I've never had a problem where I've had too much padding. And while I'm getting dressed there, I actually get a no-notice text message from Dave Clark himself, and so I felt compelled to snap a quick selfie and let him know, sorry, I can't chat right now because I'm getting ready to go foiling. It's always fun to share. So the sail. I had some problems when I was first trying to get this thing rigged up. The very first day, yeah, I thought I was doing it wrong, and I actually left the boat, pulled out my phone, and started going through the Sailing Anarchy website to try to find some tips on what I was doing wrong. And it seemed like I was doing everything right, but parts of the mainsail kept sticking and started tearing actually some of the overlapping fabric right on the luff. I made a couple of alterations. Number one is I put some sail tape over the seams on the luff. It's only like in 3 places or so that it really was catching. And that sail tape, I just squeezed it on as tight as I could, and it works great. Up at the top of the sail in particular, my luff line is starting to tear away. That's kind of a known issue. When you sail these things as hard and as frequently as I do, I was frankly expecting it to happen sooner. I'm prepared to cut that thing off when it comes time, but right now I'm keeping it together with just a couple extra layers of sail tape. For hoisting techniques, I've got my shrouds fully slack. And yeah, I'm just giving some big heave-hoes and it just goes straight up. Now I stop about 6 inches from the top, and I take that opportunity to go ahead and attach the outhaul. It's super easy to do that when you've got 6 inches to spare. And then once I get the outhaul in, I go and I finish it off, cleat it off. I like the halyard going forward between the 2 spreaders when I coil it, and then attach it with a bungee that I've got going right around the middle part of the mast. It just, to me, it keeps it out of the way. It looks better. I don't know that it's actually better, but that's just my preference. Then I put the bottom part of the sail on. The Velcro strap on the foot of the sail that goes around the front of the mast, I normally don't thread it through the 2 D-rings. If I'm going to be out for a long day and it's blowing really hard, yeah, I might do that. But what I found is when that gets wet, at the end of the day, sometimes it's a real pain to undo. And the Velcro itself seems to hold fine. So if I'm going out for a short sail or it's not particularly heavy wind, I just go through both D-rings, come back around, and I attach it to the Velcro, and it seems to work just fine. Okay, I'm on a dynamic dolly here. I'd say worth every penny. Now, one alteration that I highly recommend if you get one of these things is when Dynamic ships this to you, the crossbar on which the bows rest is positioned further toward the T-handle, which means 95% of the boat is forward of that rear axle where the wheels are. So when I went to go lift it up the first time, right after I got the dynamic dolly, I was really disappointed because it was heavy. It was not fun wheeling this thing across the yacht club parking lot. And I called Dynamic up. They gave me some instructions. They said, yeah, you can just drill some new holes. And I moved it aft, which meant I could move the whole boat further aft. However, now there's always a risk for it to tip aft and land on the rudder. So make sure if you do that you've got some bungee, or I've got just a rope that I loop over the bows just to make sure it doesn't pop up without me knowing it. All right, I'm dock launch, as I mentioned. First thing I do is I get tail over water, and then I angle the boat about 20 degrees or so, just to give me some foot room, some standing room, where I undo. I've got basically two safeties. I've got the tab that holds the rudder up when it's stored, and then what used to be the rudder halyard. I use that for something different, and I'll show you some pictures of that. Essentially, I 3D printed a rudder hold down, and I just loop the what used to be called the rudder halyard. I loop that over that just for some extra support. I've got a couple of bungees in place there to keep it seated in the cleat. And that has been working fantastic. It's super easy. It only takes a couple seconds, as you can see, and it's my preferred method for handling that. Now, that's probably the reason that I have a tough time beach launching, is because I'm not used to the gradual lowering of the rudder as you get to deeper water. I just go full depth, and then I'm off. Once I've got that down and locked in place, now it's time to lower the boat into the water. You can see I've got basically my painter, I've got it set up as a bridle. It gives me a lot of control where I can basically turn the boat left and right if I need to. It fits underneath the sprit in general. I can adjust it in one hand, cleat it off however I want, if I want the boat to face left or right while I'm working on some other stuff. In this particular case, the wind was light enough, the tide was helping me out here, and I went ahead and launched without lowering the main foil. Sometimes, if the conditions permit, I'll go ahead and do that. Now, the shroud tension, when possible, I will apply shroud tension on land, but frequently, or as you can imagine, getting down that dinghy dock for me, if the wind is blowing up the dinghy ramp, there's no way for me to back that thing down unless I can fully rotate that rig 180 degrees. And with the main foil up, that's a real problem. So I make sure that my Cunningham is released. My main sheet's got to be fully released. Although I put a safety knot in it in the bungeed block in the middle of the boom, so it can rotate 180 degrees, but not too much further than that. And then when I get it onto the dock and I can fare it into the wind, I can just grab it from that from the bungee block, undo my slip knot, and then continue feeding it through the main sheet block. For the shroud tension, because of that technique that I just talked about, I've got to I can't add tension to the shrouds on dry land. I have to do it on the water. And I found with the factory provided system, I wasn't getting as much shroud tension as I wanted to. So I added just one more pulley, one more block, so that I have more leverage, just because I'm doing it from the water and I really can't get that much. But now with the added block, I can. Now with the painter, if I'm going to be out for 45 minutes, an hour or more, typically I'll remove the whole thing, coil it up, and I'll put it in the little pouch at the foot of the sail. If I'm only going out for, like in this case, an evening, 30, 45 minutes or so, I'll just unclip one side and I'll coil it up, and then I've got bungees on my custom foot straps that I can attach it to. Keeps it out of the way, nice and tidy. And there it is. From the time I started unwrapping the boat to up on foils, about 15 and a half minutes. And that includes taking and answering a text message from Dave. Now I've got footage of the entire return trip and docking and getting the boat off the water, back up to dry land, rinsed off and put away. But I'm not really sure there's anything in there that would be useful for anyone. Everyone's got their own techniques or whatever. And it's pretty straightforward, just doing everything in reverse, with the exception of raising the rudder. Now, to me, raising the rudder was the least anticipated event of the entire session. It really was a pain, especially in those first couple of months. And I eventually realized that one of the things that just was making this a back-breaking endeavor, and I'm talking about doing this tail over water from a dock. This is not on the water, which I know is exponentially more difficult, but just doing it from a dock, tail over water, it was still very challenging and frustrating and sticky and back-breaking. I realized that the whole rudder mast was filled up with water, and if you were putting away your boat, taking your boat apart every single time, of course, that water would drain out of that little hole that's toward the top of the mast. In my case, I essentially was raising and storing the boat with a mast full of all the salt water that it got in that session. I called Dave up and he said, yeah, just drill a hole in the bottom and it will drain. So I did it. And it has made it significantly easier to raise that rudder. I think it will work in a beach launch and beach recovery situation. I think it will make things a little bit easier. So that's definitely something to consider. As you can see in this footage, essentially I've got my camera in one hand filming, and the other hand I'm raising the rudder. So if I can do it with one hand, certainly it should be easier than what a lot of what I'm hearing you guys out there are experiencing. So hopefully this helps. Now, some of you might have noticed I've got a new sprit, and it's great. One of the cylindrical tubes that I just got from Fulcrum Speedworks not too long ago. Now, because of that, there's no need for me to have this GoPro mount that I've been using with such great success. So whoever wants it, the first person that asks for it, just send me your name and your address and I will ship this to you for free. My gift to you. In the meantime, because it's I'm working with a fancy new round sprit, I've got a new GoPro mount. I'm still testing it out, but it seems to work fine. It's super secure. I think I'm gonna have a lot of luck with that. Okay guys, that's it for today. Hopefully this was helpful. If there's something that you wanted covered that I didn't, please let me know in the comments section. Also, be sure to check out the show notes where I put a bunch of links to supporting documents and resources that are to, about, and from the UFO community at large. Until next time, hope to see you out on the water.